Another one of my worries, because I have a lot of them. Like, I was kinda gagged there. I just want to ask, why? He never cared about any woman or any man. Inclusive king. I have finally reached a crisis. I knew it would come. Okay, hello, you are currently on a stack of books. I feel like you're moving, but whatever. We're starting this vlog. Today is August 5th, and I am finally starting Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. I'm starting it a lot later than I thought I would, but I still aim to finish this book by the end of September. So I have 57 days, I believe, to finish this book, and I did some math, and it still turns out that I only have to read turns out that I only have to read 23 pages per day to finish it by like October 1st or September 30th, whatever. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm still very much intimidated. I'm still very scared because, like, sure, technically I can read 23 pages a day, but first things first, the font here isn't that big. It's quite small, actually, and if I miss a day, that's 66 pages that I have to read the next day. So yeah, we'll see. Another one of my worries, because I have a lot of them. I'm just worried because I've decided to film this reading vlog because I thought it might be fun to have like a whole vlog dedicated to one big, very famous classic. But I'm worried, not necessarily that I'm going to hate it, because, like, sure, that wouldn't be ideal, but I feel like sometimes hate reading can be fun. And if I have very strong emotions, if I really don't like this book, it still might be entertaining to watch. My biggest worry is if I just don't care. If it's like a 3-star, I'm feeling like very lukewarm, I do not care. Because reading a book that you just don't care about for this long and reading so many pages of it, I don't know. But yeah, I am starting it today. It is actually quite a rainy, gloomy day, even though it's August. So I thought this is a perfect day to start this book. And yeah, I guess I will update you along the way. This vlog is mostly going to be spoiler-free, I think. I will definitely delve into some spoilers every now and then, but I will warn you beforehand. Let's do this. Okay, hi. It is late at night and I look awful. I hate how I look and I do not want to be perceived, but I need to give you an update. It is day 3 and I finished the first book of the first part. So if you're not familiar, Les Miserables is... Can I say... How do you say the shortened version? No, I don't remember. This book is divided into 5 parts, and each part is divided into books, and each book is divided into chapters. Yeah, so I finished the first book in the first part, and so far we only got a backstory of this bishop. Like, truly nothing else happened. But I mean, I'm on like 60 pages into it. A lot of the stories, like, this bishop is almost like too good to be true. The first book is actually called A Good Man, right? Yeah, A Good Man. Some of the stories from his life living in this town, village, I don't know, almost felt like biblical. And some of the stories about this bishop kind of reminded me of the, like, what are they called? Parables in the Bible? Like parables about Jesus, you know, helping people in need and stuff like that. Here's the thing. Let's come clean here. I was raised Christian, but I am not religious anymore. Like, not to dump my religious trauma on you, but I do have a very negative opinion overall of like organized religion. But I have to say, reading this first book kind of reminded me of like what or the like teachings of Jesus or whatever. Like it was all just like be kind to each other and help each other out and be empathetic, and kind of how did we all go so wrong? But yeah, it just kind of made me think about like organized religion versus just faith. You know what I mean? Because in my experience, in my opinion, I feel like a lot of organized religion is just about power and control and hatred and hypocrisy. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah. But whenever I was reading about this bishop and him just trying to be kind, and when I was reminded of like the stories of Jesus, I was like, yeah, like those are good lessons. And like at the heart of it, if you're just going by the teachings of Jesus, I don't think it's a bad way to live, you know? I mean, I'm not that familiar with the Bible, but... So I finished the first book. I think finally in the second book we're going to meet Jean Valjean? How do you say that? Here's the thing, I know nothing about Les Miserables. I am, I guess, lucky because I've never watched the musical. I literally do not know anything about this, except that I've heard that Jean Valjean is like the main character, or one of the main characters of the story. So I am excited to meet him. I am a bit done with the bishop at this point, but I am enjoying it. There was this one quote, because like even though I don't know really anything about the plot of this book, I do know it's going to be about like the injustice of the society at that time, but I feel like it's still relevant, a lot of it. There was this one quote at the very beginning that I underlined. Can I find it? I wonder. Oh yeah. He was forbearing towards women and the poor, on whom the burden of human society falls. He said, "The failings of women, children, and servants, of the feeble, the destitute, and the ignorant, are the fault of their husbands, fathers, and masters, of the strong, the rich, and the learned." Like, I was kind of gagged there. So I actually underlined quite a lot of things. It's also about like, well, I mean, it's about French Revolution and like the monarchy, and I'm not gonna lie, I had to like brush up on the history of France in the 18th and 19th century, because yeah, I was like, obviously I know some stuff about French Revolution and what happened to Louis XVI, stuff like that, but I don't know, there was this like conversation between the bishop and a guy who was a part of the convention, I think it's called. So like he was one of the like instigators of the movement in French Revolution. I don't know the words, but they were talking and they had very different views politically. And one of them was mentioning like, oh, remember what happened to the children? And he was like, okay, so if we're going to talk about the children, how about the children who were executed or like died during this time? And I was just like, what children? Who died? So yeah, I had to like research some things. Also, I really don't like the footnotes in this edition because, I mean, obviously they are at the very end, but I'm not sure how to explain it, but there are no like, what do you call them? Asterisks? Like the little stars or like little numbers that signify that there should be footnote at the end. There's nothing like that. You just have to check the notes every now and then at the back and just pray that what you don't understand is going to be there. You know, like, oh my god, it's so heavy. Let me show you what it looks like. Like, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, but here we have like a whole page of footnotes, and here it just says that those are the footnotes for the pages between 15 and 25. And I don't like that, but so far I'm really enjoying it. I feel like I'm learning a lot about French history, and I like that actually. I would prefer learning this way, like through literature rather than actually reading historical texts, you know what I mean? And the chapters are actually pretty short, so just a few pages, so slowly but surely we are making progress. So there's that. I look so bad. Ugh. I feel like editing Anya is going to be so angry that I filmed myself like this, but whatever. I'll see you, I don't know, in a few days. I feel like I shouldn't like update you too often, because then this vlog is going to be like a few hours long and I will have to post it in like a few parts, and I don't think I want to do that. We'll see how much I'll have to say. Bye. Okay, hello. As you can see, I'm back from my little free 4-day trip to my cottage, and it is August 17th. So how many days have I been reading Les Miserables for? 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 days, so it will soon be 2 weeks. And I finished the first part. I am on part 2. I will be starting part 2. Actually, I already saw that book 1 of part 2 starts with, not sure if you'll be able to see, but it starts with Waterloo. And I've heard about it, okay? I know there's going to be, like, I don't know, 50 pages about the Battle of Waterloo and, like, Napoleon, right? Yeah. I'm not looking forward to it. Don't love reading about war, but I gotta get through it. That's all there is to it. But this is the first hurdle. The two things I have heard, like the two big... What are they called? Diversions? Like two topics that Victor Hugo starts rambling on for pages and pages are the Battle of Waterloo and like Napoleon stuff, and the like sewer system of Paris in the 19th century. So those are the two things I knew I would have to look forward to, and I am about to encounter the first one. That's okay, I will get through it. Oh, one last thing, about like 200 pages into this book, I finally decided to, along with reading this book physically, to start listening to it on audiobook. I'm mostly like listening to it while looking at the text. Yeah, I don't know, I really need to focus while reading this book, so technically I'm only reading 23 pages per day, but I am reading those pages quite slowly. I am really like trying to retain all the information, understand everything there is to be understood, and it's taking some time. Like 23 pages doesn't sound like that much, but it takes me some time to get through those pages every single day. So what are my overall thoughts so far? Honestly, I'm not sure. Like, I'm not disliking it, but I'm not loving it either. I am slowly, I think, warming up to the main character, Jean Valjean. I'm slowly, like, warming up to him, getting interested in his story, 270 pages into it. But to be honest, I mostly read this for the social commentary rather than, I don't know, the writing style, the characters, the story. Although I am getting into the story too. So, I'm sure you all know, but this book is mostly about Jean Valjean, and his backstory is that he stole a loaf of bread at some point in his life, and he went to prison for 19 years for that crime. He was poor, he needed to like feed his sister's children, and yeah, he stole the bread. Obviously, he didn't go to prison for 19 years for stealing the loaf of bread. He went to prison at first for a few years, but then he tried to escape and his sentence got longer and longer. This is still like we don't follow those 19 years in prison. This is just his backstory, so I'm not I'm not spoiling anything. But yeah, mostly the story is about the social inequality of France in the 19th century, obviously. And yeah, I am enjoying the social commentary. It's about poverty and morality and like how those people at the bottom of the ladder of the hierarchy in the society, how they can make wrong choices and, you know, not necessarily like there's morality, but even if they do bad things, the problem is not them as individuals. Obviously the problem is with the system, because the game is rigged. Like from the very beginning they are at a disadvantage and the system is not helping, it is actually making everything worse. Like going to prison, there was this quote, I'm not sure, can I share it with you or is it spoiler? I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'm going to read it out loud, but I'm not going to tell you the context, obviously. I will try to make this vlog like as spoiler-free as possible. So, harsh prisons make hardened criminals. Reflect on that, if you will. Before I was in the prison hulks, I was a poor peasant and not very bright, something of adult. The prison hulks changed me. I was stupid, I became wicked. I was a blockhead, I became a firebrand. Later on, kindness and goodness saved me, as harshness had been the ruin of me. So overall, like, I feel like this conversation of about like the prison system and how it's like obviously it's punishing people, but it shouldn't be doing just that. It should be making people better, and I feel like even now it's not really doing it. So there's a lot of topics that are still relevant. Is that all? I feel like I'm missing something. I think for now that is all, and I'll update you later. Not sure when, but I will see you. Okay, actually I'm back. I forgot to mention something. I have to say, while reading this book, I keep comparing it to The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I really enjoyed The Count of Monte Cristo. I'm pretty sure so far it has been the longest book I have ever read. And two things that I keep comparing. First things first, the length. I keep being like, we don't need all of this. While when I was reading The Count of Monte Cristo, I felt like each chapter was important. Actually, there were some like plot points that happened like behind the scenes, and I was like, I wish we had seen this. So like with The Count of Monte Cristo, I actually wouldn't mind if it was even like longer, a little bit longer. And with this one, there's a lot of meandering, and especially in book one, I was noticing how some details about the bishop were like mentioned so many times in so many different chapters, and I was like, we already know that. Why do we keep talking about this? I mean, this isn't new. Like, this is what Victor Hugo is like famous for, all of his like diversions, like meanderings. So like I get it, but it is a bit annoying. And the second thing is that in The Count of Monte Cristo, we have the Count of Monte Cristo, the main character, who goes to prison because, oh my god, I don't even remember the details. He is wrongly accused of something. How do I not remember this? But yeah, it's about him going to prison and then like escaping this prison, and it's about first his revenge and then his redemption arc, maybe. And here we have Jean Valjean, who went to prison. So like this part kind of happens before we start the book. He went to prison, we meet him after he's released from prison. And like I'm still not sure where this book is going, because, you know, The Count of Monte Cristo was mostly about his revenge, while so far I feel like, mild spoilers, but I feel like Jean Valjean's like redemption arc already kind of happened. So I'm not sure where this is going, but at least during the first part I kept being reminded of The Count of Monte Cristo plot-wise. Now that is all. I'll see you when I see you. Okay, just a quick update from my balcony, because I just want to ask, Why? How was 50 pages about the Battle of Waterloo relevant to the story at all? I mean, like, at the end we kind of circled back, and I'm guessing the characters that we were introduced at the very end of the chapter will come back later, but yeah, it was just Victor Hugo being like, okay, let's stop this whole story. I want to talk about the Battle of Waterloo. And he did. And like, in a weird way, I have to respect that. Like, he was just like, I am interested in this topic, I want to talk about it, so I'm going to. So yeah, that's all. I got through it, that's all I can say. Hello friends, I am updating you because, well, I am almost done with part 2. I am 472 pages into the book. It is day 22 of me reading Les Mis, and this is quite a roller coaster, I'm not gonna lie. I have like 40 pages until part 3, but I just wanted to stop for a second and talk about the past few chapters slash books. So, plot-wise, I am not going to talk about spoilers here. So far, when it comes to the main plot, I can tell you that I'm enjoying the Cosette slash Jean Valjean chapters. Yeah, those chapters really, I can read through them very quickly. I find Jean Valjean's attachment to Cosette very enduring, and it is entertaining so far. But, good God. Okay, how do I talk about it without spoilers? Basically, Jean Valjean and Cosette, because of circumstances, happen to be in a place that is, or used to be, a convent, I think is. And basically, Hugo like stops the entire story to give us the background of this convent. Like very detailed historical background and like how this convent operates. So we have like 30 pages of that. And then we have another book because, yeah, book 6 was Petit something? The name of the convent, Petit, however you say that. So that was the chapter about this particular convent. And then chapter 7, called Parenthesis, is just Victor Hugo going off about his like hatred towards like convents and monasteries. And it is fascinating. It is just like maybe 10 pages long, but I underlined so many things, like, yeah, even highlighted some stuff here. Yeah, so he starts this chapter with, this book is a drama whose main character is the infinite. Man is the secondary character. I'm guessing the infinite means God. So he just goes off on this tangent of like criticizing convents. Yeah, when there are too many monasteries. Monasteries, I'm guessing, what is the exact definition? I mean, I'm sure we all know, but yeah, like religious institutions, I guess. Like places of worship, places where nuns or priests live, right? So he goes off on this tangent about how like monasteries are doomed, and he says that like monasteries were good in the 10th century, debatable in the 15th. In the 19th century, monasteries are detestable as an institution and as a method of cultivating human beings. But like at the same time, there's so many contradictions in my opinion here, because for so many pages he goes off how monasteries and convents are like a consumptive disease. They cause depopulation. Claustration equals castration. He says about specifically Spanish convents, how they are dens of terrible devotion, lairs of virgins, savage places. They are obstructions to the normal functioning of the system, centers of idleness where centers of occupation should exist. But at the same time he says that he has respect for those places, and there is in the synagogue, the mosque, the pagoda, the wigwam, a hideous aspect that we loathe and a sublime aspect that we revere. So even he realizes that he has very conflicted feelings, and overall, from what I understand, he opposes kind of fanaticism, yeah, when it comes to religious views, and also overall he seems to be against institutionalized religion. So from what I've read, Hugo's views on the church and like Christianity evolved throughout the years. So at first I think he was brought up Catholic, but at the end of his life he was quite anti-church and on his Wikipedia it says that over the years he became a non-practicing Catholic and increasingly expressed anti-Catholic and anti-clerical views. Okay, so I feel like to some people this might sound boring, but the way Hugo talks about religion kind of reminded me of Anne Bronte and her book The Tenant of Whitehall. I am not religious, but I can enjoy reading about religion if it's written in a certain way. And I do feel like both Anne Bronte and Victor Hugo write in a way that still feels respectful towards like other people's views, even though they like don't necessarily agree with people who are like atheists and stuff like that. But the way the text is written isn't like, oh, we are all going to hell. It's just like, hey, these are my views and atheists have this kind of views and like, let's talk about it. And when a book is written in this kind of way, I can find it like intellectually stimulating and not preachy and boring. He actually writes about atheists. I mean, he kind of compares them to blind people who like deny the existence of the sun. I'm not sure, something like that. But at the same time, he says, there are, as we know, renowned atheists of powerful intellect, brought back to the truth by the very power of their intellect. Fundamentally, they are not very sure of being atheists. Okay. With them, it is little more than a matter of definition, and in any case, even if they do not believe in God, being great minds, they prove the existence of God. We salute them as philosophers while being severe critics of their philosophy. And I don't mind that. Like, he can acknowledge that atheists can be intelligent people and can have like interesting views, can be great minds, even if he disagrees with their philosophy, their views. Also, he talks about nihilism. Yeah, he is a lot more severe on nihilists than he is on atheists, because in his interpretation, nihilists believe in like nothing. And he is interesting because while he is opposed to like organized religion, he does believe in faith and thinks that faith is a very powerful thing. And he actually doesn't necessarily only talk about like Christianity or like Catholicism, but also about like other religions. Yeah, basically he's saying that you have to believe in something. He says, we criticize the church when it is riddled with intrigue. We despise the spiritual in its attachment to the temporal, but everywhere we honor the thinking man. So like, you just have to believe in something. That's why he really doesn't like nihilists. A faith, this is indispensable to man. Woe to anyone who believes nothing. Oh, also he says, we are for religion and against religions. I'm not sure if this is a good translation, but I think what he's saying is that he believes in faith. So even like on his Wikipedia, even though it said that he was anti-church at the end of his life, he always kind of believed in God and believed in prayer. So he always had faith, but he was against like organized religion. And I think this is what he's saying here. But the most interesting thing out of all of this, I think, is him talking about convents, because at first, so like convents with like nuns, at first he says, the convent, the old-fashioned convent for women in particular, as it still existed at the turn of the century in Italy, Austria and Spain, is one of the darkest manifestations of the Middle Ages. And like later, like I said, he mentions how it is a consumptive disease and it causes depopulation. So I was like, so you're saying that convents are bad for women because they are like isolated from the society and can't like have children and reproduce? Like, what is what are we saying here? But at the very end of this chapter of this book, he says this, which I found fascinating. To examine the truth from every angle exhaustively and impartially, the monastery, the female convent in particular, for in our century it is women who suffer most, and in their monastic exile there is element of protest, undeniably in itself and ideally has a certain grandeur. This cloistered life, so austere, so bleak, a few of those features we have just traced. It is not life, for it is not liberty. It is not entombment, for it is not fulfillment. So, because there's so much inequality and women suffer so much, like, them entering a convent can be a form of protest. But because they are so, like, isolated and their lives are so bleak, this is not liberty, this is not freedom, and this is not fulfillment. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm, interpreting all of this correctly, but I thought what he was saying at first wasn't what he was actually saying, so, yeah, a lot of his views seem contradictory. Like, he says that he uses so many, like, strong words against, like, monasteries and convents, like, they are of the Middle Ages, they are, like, horrendous, like, so many negative adjectives, but at the same time, he's like, yeah, but I actually respect them. I'm just like, what are you saying? So, like, he's got the spirit, but he's a bit confused. But yeah, it makes sense that his views were a bit, like, all over the place, because he was brought up kind of Catholic Christian. I feel like those two are different things. I think he was raised Catholic, but, like, his views changed over the years, and I feel like you can see in this book, this was published in 1862, he died in the 1880s, something like 1885, I'm not sure. So you can see kind of where he's going with his views, but there's still some, like, religious, I don't know. Like, I feel like he still holds some of his, like, old views, but he is for progress, he is against, like, injustice and inequality. So, I don't know, I can see the wheels turning, and he's going in the right, okay, I'm not going to say in the right direction, because, yeah, I'm not against, I'm like, at heart, I'm genuinely not against people having faith. So, like, to me, the chapter about the convent, I was like, what are we doing here? I don't care. But then we kind of shifted from the history of this particular convent to this, like, religious views and philosophical ideas, and that part I really enjoyed, but I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. So yeah, just very, like, intellectually stimulating. I enjoyed what I've read, but yeah, overall, quite a roller coaster. I'll update you later. Hi, I'm in Greece now, but this guy is with me, not leaving my side. I am reading my daily pages every single day. That sounds like I'm reading in Bible, the French Bible. So, just wanted to say that I am almost done with the Marius part. How many pages do I have left? I have like 40 pages left to reach part 4. So I am on page 687. I think I am halfway through. Wow. This feels weird. Like, it both feels like an accomplishment, like, wow, I'm finally halfway through it, but also like, wow, I have been reading it for so long and I'm only halfway through it, and there's like a second half that I have to get through. So, conflicted emotions, but I don't think I have a lot of space on my camera, so the update might be a bit short, but I have some thoughts. I really enjoyed, well, I'm enjoying this part with Marius. I mean, I'll get to Marius in a little bit, but there was this chapter called The Friends of the ABC, and in that chapter we were introduced to a lot of characters. And I have to say, I had to read that chapter twice, because at first I was listening to it on an audiobook, like late at night, and the next day I was like, no, I did not retain all the information, so I had to actually re-listened to it, and I made like a little mind map with the characters that we were introduced to. I'm not sure, can you see it? Yeah. So I don't know how useful this is going to be, because I'm not sure how important those characters are going to be in the future, because I thought they would be more important, and we kind of were introduced to them very briefly and then went back to Marius's story. So I don't know, but I really enjoyed that kind of part, that those chapters about the friends of the ABC. If you know, you know. So confusing at first, but enjoyable, and I don't know, it's just, for a change of pace, it was actually really nice to read about like a bunch of educated young people and kind of their dynamics between each other. But also, do we all agree that, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Janter? I don't know, that he's in love with Enjura? I'll put the names on the screen. Like, I don't even think this is subtext, it's text. In my translation, it literally said that he loved him. So, yeah, we love a bisexual king. Also, there was another part when we were being, well, not introduced to, we were learning a bit more about Monsieur... What was his name? I am sorry, I'm butchering all the names. I do not know any French. Monsieur Mabeuf. There was a part where it said... Okay, hello, I cannot see anything, but I had to stop recording because my mom came into the room, so... I was going to share a quote with you. So yeah, basically Hugo was saying how Monsieur Mabeuf like wasn't married and wasn't like romantically involved with anyone, and basically Hugo was explaining how he just loves his plants and he doesn't care for love. And he said, in any case, he had never succeeded in loving any woman as much as a tulip bulb, or any man as much as Elzevir edition. I'm guessing Elzevir edition is some kind of book. So, relatable. He just cares about his plants and books. And also, like, the fact that Hugo wrote, he never cared about any woman or any man. Inclusive king. So yeah, when it comes to Marius, because this part is mostly about him. Sorry, I'm like squinting, I can't see anything. Hope you can see me. But yeah, Marius was fine. Like, I liked him until he started stalking a 15-year-old. Like, just the description how he saw her like blossom into a woman when she was 15. Like, basically he saw her as a child at 14, and at 15 he was in love with her. Like, I was nauseous. So I do not support that relationship. Oh, I guess those are spoilers. And yeah, that is all. I am melting a bit, so I'll see you probably back in Warsaw with the next update. Hi, I have a lot to update you on. I finished part 4, so I am on part 5, which is Jean Valjean, and I have finally reached a crisis. I knew it would come. I honestly thought it would come sooner. But yeah, basically when I came back from Greece, on the day that I came back, I didn't read my 23 pages, and the next day I was feeling lazy because like on the day that I came back from Greece, I was just tired, and the next day I was feeling lazy, so I didn't read it. But the next day was Sunday, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to have time to catch up on those 2 days. And then on Sunday I had the worst food poisoning of my life. If you want to hear the whole story, head over to this vlog where I talked about it. But I actually went to the ER for a food poisoning. So yeah, you can imagine how awful I felt. So obviously I didn't read on that day. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't sleep because I felt so bad. I couldn't like watch videos, read nothing. I could just only focus on how awful I was feeling. The next day I also didn't read because I was still kind of recovering and feeling not that great. So 4 days passed and I didn't read Les Miserables. And I was feeling like such a failure, I'm not gonna lie. It was so bad that I actually felt like I might not finish this book, which is insane, but I just felt so bad that I, missed those 4 days. And like 23 pages daily isn't that bad, but like 4 times that is, I don't know how much is exactly, but like that's almost 100 pages. And that thought in my head just made me not want to pick this book up at all. Like 100 pages behind, that's so much. And I actually started talking with my friend, and I was telling her how like proud I felt before for like reading those daily pages every single day and like not missing a day, and that's just how proud I was of myself and how much of a failure missing those 4 days made me feel, and like how I just didn't want to pick this book up after those 4 days because those 100 pages felt so overwhelming. And my friend said, like, what do you mean? You still should feel proud of yourself. Like, you got so far into it. Like, I was literally like 800 pages into this book and I was thinking about not finishing it. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because I felt like a failure because I didn't like adhere to this like imaginary schedule that I made up for myself. Which is insane. So it was really hard to just pick this book up again for some reason. So I've decided to just turn off any thoughts in my head and like not think in terms of numbers at all on that day that I picked up this book again. And actually, on the day after those 4 days that I picked up this book, I actually didn't manage to read the 23 pages that I normally read because I was still feeling pretty tired. But just the like action of picking this book up and like going back to the habit of reading it helped. So the next day I read the 23 pages and I think even a bit more, and the next day I also read, and I just went back to the habit of reading it. So this is how I overcame my crisis. Right now I am still behind, like I'm still 2 days behind I think, but that's not the end of the world. Like sure, I wanted to finish this book up by the end of September, and like maybe this will happen, maybe it won't, but if it doesn't, the world will not fall apart. Sure, I like really wanted to, as you might know, I just really love October as a month, as a reading month, because you have both October and Halloween, and I just always have this like insane TBR for that month, so I really wanted to be done with this book before October, but if it doesn't happen, it's really not such a big deal. So, let's talk about the book itself and like what I have read since I last updated you. Okay, I need to like look at what I read because I don't even remember. Oh yes, okay. We had this like book 7 that was called Slang, and that was a fascinating book. Hugo was basically talking about like the use of slang in literature and like how important it is to show those kind of different parts of society and preserve those things in books. Like here he says, it must be said for the benefit of those who do not know, slang is both a literary phenomenon and a social consequence. Slang is the language of the wretchedness. Yeah, he also like talks about historians and like how they preserve history, and there are historians like of events and historians of manners and ideas. I think in a way he also was talking about sociologists. Just a very interesting chapter. Yeah, he asks questions like, do these historians of hearts and souls have lesser responsibilities than historians of external facts? What else? Oh yeah, I forgot about it. We started this part with, well, obviously like the rundown of like historical events, but also a very interesting chapter. We also had like a love letter to Louis Philippe. I don't know why, but apparently Victor Hugo really loved Louis Philippe as a king, as a ruler. And yeah, he was actually like outlining what socialism is. And okay, sorry, my battery died. But basically, Victor Hugo was advocating for socialism. Isn't that surprising, because this book is about inequality, it's about poverty, it's about injustice. And he says that when it comes to socialists, to the rights of men proclaimed by the French Revolution, they added the rights of woman and the rights of child. And he basically like outlines what socialism is, and that it comes down basically to like two problems. First problem, how to produce wealth, and second problem, how to share it out. And that the first problem contains the issue of work, and the second problem contains the issue of wages. So, work and wealth, and wages, and how do we share it? How do we as a society can be equal and strive for happiness of all people? Also, I found it really interesting that he says that fair distribution is not about things being equal, but it's about equitable distribution. I didn't know that even back then we had this like discussion of like equality versus equity. Yeah, he literally says the fundamental equality is equity. So interesting. Yeah, I don't know, but I do stand with him when it comes to his views on socialism. Yeah, he was basically just saying how can we produce wealth and distribute it so that we, how he says it, we will, achieve both like material greatness and moral greatness. And I love it. So there's that. When it comes to like actual plot of this book, what did happen? I filmed myself reading the part at the barricade, and I have to say I did get a bit emotional at the part with Monsieur Mabouf. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Yeah. It's actually weird that I only have one part left, because I do get the feeling that we are getting closer to the end of the book, and I actually would have liked to see more of some other characters, especially like the whole like university group, Enjolras, Courfeyrac, that crowd, because they are a part of a, social revolution, and it's just really interesting to see those young men trying to fight for what they believe in. Also, one last thing, I have to address it. Javert. At the very beginning of this book, I thought I really wouldn't like him. And like, don't get me wrong, he is a jackass, he is cruel, but he's such an interesting character. Like, I've seen somewhere online someone saying like, yes, Javert is an antagonist, but he's not a villain. And that's an interesting point. So at first, I thought I would really hate him because he is very like upright, and he is a part of the police, is that what it's called? I don't know. Gendarme? No. And like, he is merciless? I don't know. Like, basically, there are no exceptions. Everyone has to adhere to the rules, and like, that's fine, but in my head, I just assumed he would be a hypocrite. I just assumed that he would not hold himself to the same standards that he like holds other people, you know what I mean? But he proved me wrong. Spoiler alert, when he like came to Jean Valjean and like told him, hey, I judged you wrongly, and I actually, wrote this letter accusing you that, you are this convict, even though you are a just man, and, fire me because I don't deserve this position, because I did something wrong. And my jaw was on the floor. I'm not gonna lie, throughout this whole like ordeal, I know we're kind of going back in time, but every time I see Javert, I have such like mixed feelings about him. So I just would like to like rewind a bit. But throughout this whole ordeal, when he was telling Javert that like he should fire him and like he does not deserve to be, or like he was resigning from his position, I don't remember exactly, but like this whole time I was thinking like, surely this is a ruse, like he's just trying to make him to confess. But that wasn't the case. He was just so just. So that really surprised me. When it comes to his character, I know I said that I didn't know anything about Les, but there's one spoiler that I actually have heard about when it comes to Javert. So like, I know where his like character, well, I don't know where his character arc is going, but I know what happens to him at the end, I guess. Does that make sense? Like, I've just seen some mentions in like popular culture, some scenes or parodies where, spoiler, he like commits suicide, jumps into a river. I don't know what he does, but like, I don't know why he does it. I don't know any backstory, but I just have heard that this happens. So, those are my thoughts as of right now. We'll see how I feel at the end. I will update you, obviously. And yeah, I guess let's finish this book. If nothing happens, like in the middle, I guess I'll see you on the other side when I finish this book. Let the record show that on September 29th, I have finished Les Miserables. Yes, thank you for the applause. Yeah, I managed to finish it in September. I kind of hunkered down. Today is Friday. I just sat down after work and read the last 100 pages. And yeah, I will give you a review maybe tomorrow, maybe in a few days. I just need some time to figure out how I'm feeling. I mean, I have some thoughts, I do. I'm still not sure what rating to give it. How do you rate something like this? I have no idea. So, I might figure it out, I might not. I might not rate it at all, we'll see. But yes, I have finished Les Mis in less than 2 months, 56 days to be exact, and I am proud of myself. So, I will see you in a few days with my final thoughts, and I hope you'll stay to hear them. This feels weird. I didn't cry reading the book, but I kind of might cry just because I'm proud of myself that I finished it. Okay, I'm turning it off because, I don't know, emotions. Yeah.
Many months later.
Hi. It's 6 months later. I just kind of recorded all of this footage and then couldn't bring myself to do the final update because my thoughts were kind of all over the place. So I waited and then waited a bit too long, and I thought maybe this vlog is just bad and uninteresting, so I'm not going to post it, even though I had so much footage. But recently I asked in a video whether you wanted to see my Les Mis vlog, and quite a few people said that they would, so I ended up sitting down and editing all of the footage. So I'm actually kind of glad that I waited, because now my thoughts are much more crystallized. Back then I felt very kind of overwhelmed to film the final, the final summary, and actually I still haven't rated this book on Goodreads. And yeah, after rewatching all of this footage and editing it, I finally feel confident in my rating. I will tell you what it is at the very end. But yeah, unfortunately, because many months have passed, I don't exactly remember my kind of exact thoughts and feelings when it comes to the last part of the book. But I feel like maybe that's for the better, because that way I can keep this vlog mostly spoiler free. So let me finally tell you my overall impressions of this mammoth. So as you could probably tell, I was much more interested in the ideas that were explored in this book, so like all the philosophical, sociological and political musings. And obviously I did get invested in the plot and characters, especially Javert. I'm not gonna lie, by the end, every time he appeared on page I was like twirling my hair and kicking my feet. But overall, to me, the plot was secondary to the social commentary. And the characters are definitely the heart of this novel, and I understand that without them it wouldn't be so powerful and effective. I realize that. But to me the plot was never... So let me talk about a few cons, a few things that didn't really work for me in this book. First things first, we have a few main characters. Who do we have? We have Jean Valjean, Cosette, Marius... Hold on. I mean, I know it's been a few months, but like... Oh, right, we start with Fantine. Fantine? Okay, I think technically we have 4 characters. Fantine, Cosette, Marius, Jean Valjean, and Javert. You know what? No, let's go with 5. And I have to say, I never warmed up to Marius. The chapters that were focused on him were always the most boring to me. Little spoiler, especially since I did not want him to pursue Cosette. Yeah, that whole plot point, and especially considering the ending, I just didn't care much. And talking about Cosette, she was a little bit too good to be true. She was more interesting as a child than as a teenager or a young woman. And interestingly, I feel like her character became a bit too bland or meek, kind of the second she became a love interest to someone. I would like to see more of her, but also I wish she was more of her own person in the second half of the book. Then the big one, the big con. There were definitely parts that I did not care about. The Battle of Waterloo, the history of that one convent. So not the philosophical musings or religious rants, but the history of this one convent that did not affect the story at all. Also, when it comes to the sewer system, because everyone warned me about that part, it was in the last part 5, and I remember finishing that part and I was like, that's it? It wasn't even 20 pages. I think it was 17 pages or something like that in my edition. That being said, my edition has tiny font. But compared to the 50 pages about the Battle of Waterloo, I was like, please, that's nothing. 17 pages? I think at that point I was just immune to Hugo's rants. So I was like, this is not gonna break me. And honestly, I like the little historical inserts. I like learning history that way, rather than reading historical text. I've said that before. So the sewer system part was fine to me. But yes, there were definitely parts that I did not care about. And getting through them was exhausting and quite frustrating. And listen, I'm not necessarily saying that Hugo should have gotten rid of them. I understand the point to some of them, but I definitely feel like we could have squeezed all of that into a few pages. we could. But at the same time, I wouldn't say that I suggest reading the abridged version, because I found out that some of my favorite parts, so like the philosophical, sociological diversions, which were like my favorite parts of the story, a lot of those parts were cut out in the abridged version. So you don't know what they're going to cut out. And yeah, I guess just depending on what you are interested in, some parts might be fascinating, some parts might be boring. All in all, this novel encompasses so much. It's an exploration of social and political issues of France in the 19th century. It has various musings on religion and faith. It's about the consequences of the French Revolution, and at the same time it's about human despair and injustice, but it's also about love and compassion and hope. And to me, it wasn't an easy classic. I've heard some people say that it's quite an easy and accessible classic. I wouldn't say so. I would say The Count of Monte Cristo is much more accessible. I'm comparing these two because they're both ginormous French classics. So while it wasn't easy, and I think the fact that I had a deadline when I wanted to finish this book wasn't helping, but while the experience of reading it was quite difficult for me, I would say it's definitely worth reading, and I will be giving it a 4-star. I remember when I finished the book, I was kind of debating whether I should give it 3.5 star or a 4-star, and after, you know, some time has passed, I can definitely tell this is a 4-star. It's a book that's going to stay with me for a long time, and getting through the difficult or the frustrating parts of the book was ultimately worth it. That is all. If you watched this whole thing, I applaud you, because I know this vlog is going to be very long. And yeah, tell me in the comments if you have read this book or if you're going to read it. Did you find it hard or easy to get through? I would love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you did, because editing all of this footage was a lot. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye!